I will be reading from Joshua 4, 1 through 8, New Revised Standard Version. When the entire nation had finished crossing over the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Select 12 men from the people, one from each tribe, and command them, take 12 stones from here out in the middle of the Jordan, from the place where the priest's feet stood. Carry them over with you, and lay them down in the place where you camp tonight." Then Joshua summoned the 12 men from Israelites, whom he appointed, one from each tribe. Joshua said to them, "Pass on before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan, and each of you take up a stone on his shoulder, one for each tribe of the Israelites, so that this may be a sign among you. When your children ask in time to come, 'What do those stones mean to you?' then you shall tell them that the waters of the Jordan were cut off in front of the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed over the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. So these stones shall be to the Israelites a memorial forever." The Israelites did as Joshua commanded. They took up 12 stones out of the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord told Joshua, carried them over with them to the place where they camped, and laid them down there.
To the casual observer, it looked like just a normal stack of stones. For all intents and purposes, if you looked at it from a distance, it was just a stack of stones. But it wasn't just a stack of stones. It was a memorial. Did you hear the story? The people of Israel crossed over the Jordan much as they crossed through the Red Sea. God parted the waters and they walked through the Jordan into the Promised Land. This was the end of their destination. This was what had been promised them all along. They had been clinging to their faith that someday they would enter the Promised Land, a land flowing with milk and honey. They had been striving, blood, sweat, tears for a generation. And now, what they had believed by faith, they could see by sight. All of that journey was coming to fruition. The promises of God were being revealed. And as they crossed the Jordan, Joshua said, "Hang on just a second. Take a man from each tribe and have each of them stack 12 stones on top of each other. Each of them bring a stone and stack it on top of each other. And this will be a memorial. Your children will see it. And they will say, 'Dad, Mom, Grandma, Grandpa, what do those stones mean?' And in those days, you will be able to tell them the story, the whole story. And as they remember, and as you remember, you will remember not just an old story, but you will remember who you are." That's the thing with memory, you know. Your memory tells you who you are. Someone with amnesia isn't just lost in the recesses of their memory. Someone with amnesia struggles to know who they are in that present moment. If you don't have memory, it's not just the past that's robbed from you, it's the present. If you don't know where you came from, you don't know who you are. So Joshua said, "Take these stones and make a memorial so that your children and their children and their children and their children will remember who they are." I was astonished a couple of years ago. Rebecca had her 20th year high school reunion. First of all, that it was her 20th year high school reunion, which I take great delight in sharing with you today. But also, how quickly these people, her classmates, I was standing around watching these people having graduated, having not seen each other for some 2 decades. Their lives went in a million different directions, and they were so different. They had very little in common, but they gathered round and they began telling stories, memories. And those shared memories bound them together. Those shared memories spoke of shared life together. And there was community there for no other reason than that they remembered. Passover was a similar thing. Every year at Passover, the people of Israel gathered together, families gathered around big tables. And on those tables were bitter herbs and cups of salt water and cups of wine remembering blood that had been spilt in the Passover, and a lamb on the table remembering sacrificial lambs. And the smallest child in the room would say to the patriarch of the family, "What makes this night different from all the other nights?" And the patriarch would say, "Let me tell you. Remember when we were slaves in Egypt, where we were judged not by our humanity but by our productivity, where we didn't have names, we had numbers, and yet our God heard our cry. Our God felt our pain, came to Egypt, and the power of God collided with the powers of this world, and God delivered us through the Red Sea miraculously. When we hungered in the wilderness, God sent daily bread. When we were thirsty, God provided water from a rock. And then God revealed from Sinai on high how we were supposed to do life together, how we were supposed to treat the stranger and the alien, how we were supposed to care for the poor and the vulnerable, how we were supposed to give ourselves to the things that make for human community and avoid the things that destroy human community. And every year at Passover, they would retell that story and remember it. It wasn't a holiday, it was a holy day. It wasn't a poor excuse for a family reunion. It was a way of retelling the story so that they really remembered. It was their stack of stones in time. I wonder this morning where your stacks of stones are. I wonder this morning where the places in your life are that you can really remember. Where are those places in your journey where you had the strangest urge to take off your shoes because the ground was so holy? Where are the places where your long-held faith became wondrous sight? Where are the places that you wanted to mark the time and say, "I want my children to know this. And I want my children's 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 children to know this"? Where are your stacks of stones? Those stacks will sustain you when nothing else can. And so I would invite you this morning, as we move towards this table, to spend just a minute this morning remembering, not just rational recall, but probing your soul. Where are your stacks of stones that help you remember? Can we think on that for a minute?